South African Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago says South Africa has focused on continuity during its presidency of the G20, including elevating cross-border payments. He also said discussions were ongoing regarding how the incoming US presidency would continue the African agenda on debt and financing costs. Our correspondent Kate Fisher caught up with him at the IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Washington D.C. She began by asking him to reflect on South Africa's performance during its presidency of the G20.
From the central bank agenda, what we decided we were going to do was to elevate the work that was being done in the Financial Stability Board with respect to cross-border payments. And we lifted that into the G20 work for a reason. Sub-Saharan Africa is one of the highest costs has one of the highest costs in terms of cross-border payments. And it was very important that we elevate that work. We have made significant progress, and we had isolated particular corridors, and what we had done was that in Southern Africa, in SADC, we now have established a structure of governance that oversees the issue of cross-border payments. We're working with both the IMF and the World Bank, and what we had established is that you could have the backbone that will get the cross-border payments to take place, but unless you deal with behind the border barriers, you are not going to be able to make progress. And so we are working with countries to actually get their national payment systems to be geared up for the interaction with the backbone that would be created in SADC for the cross-border flows. SADC already has its own RTGS, and that RTGS works well for the wholesale transactions. And what we then needed to focus on is the movement of remittances, the retail transaction, making it easier for SADC citizens to be able to transmit money cross-border. Most of the deliverables, I could boldly say, at the very least on the finance track, no less than 80% has been delivered. And we will see by the time we get to the summit, we expect that the picture to be much better.
And given the financial uncertainty in the world right now, that's a pretty good result.
Well, the uncertainty is not just financial. You have got trade uncertainty, you have got geopolitical uncertainty, and then, of course, the uncertainty and economic uncertainty, and finance just happens to be a component of that. The interesting thing why I put finance last is because it gets affected by all those other three.
We've seen a rally in stock markets, commodities, especially gold. Are you prepared if that bubble bursts?
Look here, this movements in the stock prices, it's something that has already been flagged by the IMF and a number of people that says that a correction at some point will take place. The interesting thing, it is exactly that fear of a correction that will take place in the future that has moved people to gold, because gold is physical and gold is actually a currency, and that's why you will find that you've seen that central banks have been increasing their holdings of gold.
What about tariffs? Are they still having an impact? I spoke to you, say, 6 months ago here, and we're in the first throes of the new trade policy of this administration, the Donald Trump administration. How is South Africa coping with the impact of those tariffs? When
you look at the big picture, you would say that the impact of the US tariffs, that is a scenario we worked out at the beginning of the year, that the impact will be like it would deduct 0.3% on growth. So growth, the growth outcome that we have this year would have entailed the fact that there had been a 0.3% impact. However, if you look at particular sector, the impact is massive. So if you look at the impact on the automotive industry in South Africa, you have had in some instances like a 30% drop in exports to the US. That's significant. At some stage, it will start to feed through into either plants closing if they cannot find alternative markets, and if they do not find alternative markets, it could lead to jobs being lost. It has also been felt in the agricultural sector, mainly in citrus fruit, in table grapes, in wine, and in some of the nuts that are being exported to the US. And again there, given the agricultural sector employs fairly low-skilled people, the social consequences of the tariffs on those communities are actually quite significant, and that is what we are constantly watching. And the government then had to announce that they would have to provide particular support either to the sectors or to the people that are affected as a result of the tariffs. What you have with the tariffs is that actually tariffs impact directly the consumers of the country that is actually imposing them. The exporting country will feel that if they decide to impose tariffs themselves, because then the impact is no longer just an output impact, it will end up being an inflation impact as well, because tariffs raise prices.